Picture the lock on your front door. You went all out, bought the strongest one, brought in top security pros to inspect it. 27 years go by. Nobody finds a weakness. Then comes an AI. It spends a few hours examining that lock and spots a flaw. Something every human expert missed for almost 30 years. Now take that lock and put it somewhere much bigger. It's not guarding your house anymore. It's guarding the world's banking system. April 8, 2026, leaders from Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs rushed to Washington D.C. No cameras, no press, just the Treasury Secretary and the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, sitting them down in an emergency meeting. Not because of war, not because of a market crash, not even a recession. The threat? One AI system. They call it Mythos. Stick around, and you'll see what Mythos really is, what it's capable of, and why people are calling it the most dangerous AI ever created. Mythos comes from Anthropic, the same American company behind the Claude AI assistant, which you've probably heard of, maybe even tried. But don't think of Mythos as just another version of Claude. It's in another league. Entirely. Anthropic built Mythos, put it through its paces inside the company, then slammed the brakes. They refused to release it. Their own team decided, the world just isn't ready for what Mythos can do. Here's what we'll dig into today. First, what is Mythos, really? And what can it pull off that no AI before it has managed? Second, why the global banking system sits right in the crosshairs. Third, how the biggest players, the US, UK, Europe, India, and China, have reacted. Fourth, what this whole saga reveals about the direction the world is taking. If you're new here, this is what we do at Elephanta Insights. We break down the stories shaping our future, direct, clear, and with no hidden agenda. If that sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe. It only takes a second, and it helps us keep going. All right, let's get started. Let me break down Mythos in simple terms. First, think about what a hacker really does. Hackers study software, the code running your apps, websites, and operating systems, and hunt for mistakes hidden inside. These mistakes, known as vulnerabilities, pop up when programmers make errors. If a hacker finds one, that's their way in. For years, this was a job only top experts could handle. Spotting these flaws demanded deep skill, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, even months. Then Mythos came along and flipped the script. Mythos is an AI that scans software code by itself. No one needs to steer it. It finds vulnerabilities, links them together, and builds out an actual attack on its own, from start to finish. The numbers from Mythos stunned cybersecurity professionals. Before Mythos, the reigning AI champion, Claude Opus, had almost zero chance of carrying out a full cyber attack on its own. Mythos landed a 72% success rate. That's not a small jump. That's a whole new era. To make this real, let's talk about a test from the UK's AI Safety Institute, the government's independent watchdog. They put out a challenge called The Last Ones. The test simulates a major corporate network breach, 32 steps, everything included: breaking in, moving laterally, stealing credentials, planting backdoors, the works. A human expert would need roughly 20 hours for this. No AI had ever cracked it. Mythos did. 3 out of 10 tries. And even when it didn't finish, it averaged 22 steps before tapping out. Now for the twist that shocks security professionals everywhere. Mythos dug up a 27-year-old vulnerability in OpenBSD, an operating system famous for being airtight. Every human, every tool, missed it for almost 3 decades. Mythos caught it. It also found a 17-year-old remote code execution bug in FreeBSD, a huge deal for another widely used system. On top of that, Mythos helped pinpoint 271 vulnerabilities in Mozilla Firefox. That's a browser millions rely on every single day. Most of these flaws still haven't been fixed, which is why Anthropic keeps the technical details under wraps. For now, Anthropic summed up their own AI like this: AI models have now surpassed all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. So, Why are banks singled out for risk when Mythos can poke holes in nearly any system? Why not hit governments or hospitals instead? The spotlight lands on banks for 4 big reasons. They're tangled up in old technology. They are hyper-connected. They're heavy with implementation mistakes. And, most importantly, they're slow to patch holes. Banks run on mountains of COBOL code, stuff written back in the 1960s. Nearly half the world's banks still rely on it, and the vast majority of ATM transactions flow through these ancient systems. Migrating off this aging infrastructure isn't simple. It's costly, it's risky, which means banks often stick with what they've got. Problem is, old code fosters old bugs. Mythos can scan that legacy software, uncover vulnerabilities left untouched for decades, and pick them apart. Next, everything's connected. Banking isn't just a single system, it's a patchwork of thousands, mobile apps, third-party vendors, international settlement networks, cloud services, you name it. The Bangladesh bank heist in 2016 showed just how a single weak link lets attackers leap across systems through Swift. Human hackers spent weeks on that job. Mythos can automate the entire process, moving faster and more efficiently. Then there are implementation flaws. People trust banks because their encryption is strong, and they're right. The math checks out. But Mythos isn't interested in breaking encryption itself. It goes after the slip-ups, the gaps in how banks set up and maintain their security. Imagine a perfect lock with an unstable door frame. Mythos finds the wobbly frame, not the lock. Nearly every major financial institution has these hidden mistakes. Finally, the speed gap. When banks discover a vulnerability, they don't fix it overnight. Large systems mean lots of testing, delays, and bureaucracy. Mythos works at machine speed, exploiting issues faster than human teams can patch them. Reuters nailed it. Regulators worry Mythos can attack before companies even get a fix out the door. And the impact does not remain contained to the source. Once a bank is breached, the fallout spreads to payment systems, clearinghouses, stock exchanges, even pension funds. Banks aren't just businesses. They're the backbone of economies. If they go down, everything crashes right beside them. What unfolded after Mythos made headlines, nation by nation, marked a historic turning point. The arrival of this AI model sent shockwaves through government offices and boardrooms across 3 continents. It didn't take months. Everything happened within a single week, and the sense of urgency was unmistakable. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Fed Chair Jerome Powell didn't hesitate. They called an emergency meeting, behind closed doors, at the Treasury in Washington. The country's financial royalty, CEOs from Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs showed up in person. The last time this kind of coordination happened was back in 2008, during the financial crisis. US officials didn't mince words. They told their guests the threat wasn't theoretical or something for the future. It was real. And it was happening now. Anthropic moved fast, too. The company launched Project Glasswing, a system for strictly controlled access. Only about 40 organizations, major banks, tech giants, critical infrastructure players, and a handful of government agencies got approved to use Mythos, and only for defense. If you're not one of the chosen, you're out of luck. Mythos is off limits to the public. Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey broke from tradition. Instead of staying silent or issuing a dry press release, he went straight to the BBC. He warned the public, clearly, that AI models could expose vulnerabilities in IT systems, prime targets for cybercriminals. That same day, speaking at Columbia University, Bailey admitted that hearing about Mythos made him feel Anthropic had found a way to completely change the rules of cyber risk. The UK's AI Safety Institute backed him up, releasing an independent evaluation showing Mythos had a 73% success rate on demanding cybersecurity challenges. Their report made it clear, Mythos could execute multi-stage cyber attacks on vulnerable networks, jobs that would take human experts days to complete. Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, didn't hide her concerns. She said Mythos in the wrong hands would be really bad, pointing straight to its ability to find unknown software vulnerabilities, so-called zero days, and the enormous risks they pose for global finance. The IMF World Bank spring meetings, usually focused on inflation and monetary policy, found themselves talking about Mythos and AI-powered cyberattacks again and again. The IMF's Global Financial Stability Report rang the alarm bell, naming cyber risk and AI as top emerging threats. It noted that cyberattacks against banks and financial institutions had nearly doubled since before COVID. The EU is now debating whether its AI Act, meant to regulate high-risk AI systems, can handle dual-use cybersecurity tools like Mythos. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman didn't wait. She called an emergency meeting with the SBI chairman, officials from the Ministry of Electronics and IT, and CERT-In, India's cybersecurity agency. She called the threat unprecedented. Her response was direct. Every bank was ordered to hire top cybersecurity talent, ramp up real-time monitoring, and report anything suspicious immediately. India faces significant challenges. A lot of its banking infrastructure runs on older software, and there aren't enough trained cybersecurity professionals to fill the gaps. The government acted quickly. And India's story is just one part of this global response, because this was bigger than any one country. It stretched everywhere. And Mythos was now on everyone's mind. China's response is probably the most complicated piece of this whole saga, and oddly enough, most English-language outlets barely mention it. At first glance, the reaction on Chinese social media was quite disdainful. Over on Zhihu, China's big Q&A platform, think of it as their Quora, posts about Mythos racked up nearly 2 million views. Chinese AI specialists didn't hold back. They called the warnings hype, accused the US of fueling fear simply to earn geopolitical leverage. Still, behind the dismissals, something a lot heavier was building. Qihu 360, a major cybersecurity heavyweight in China, quietly announced it had already built its own AI-based system for spotting software vulnerabilities. The company claimed it had uncovered almost 1,000 new, previously undiscovered bugs, including some in Microsoft Office and popular open-source frameworks. To top it off, Qihu 360 won the top prize at the Chenfu Cup, which is basically China's most elite hacking contest. Bloomberg confirmed all of this in April 2026. Then the strategic picture got sharper. Back in September 2025, Anthropic had already rewritten its terms of service. The new rules block any company that's over 50% owned by Chinese, Russian, Iranian, or North Korean investors from using their AI, no matter where they're based. ByteDance, Tencent, Alibaba, all excluded. Chinese corporates tried to work around the blockade with proxy accounts. Anthropic caught on and shut them down. Here's the geopolitical catch. Project Glasswing, where approved organizations get exclusive access to Mythos's vulnerability lists, only lets in groups the US government selects. No Chinese organizations allowed. So when Mythos finds a security hole in widely used software, American institutions get the early heads up and patch it first. Chinese institutions get nothing. Chinese security commentators didn't mince words. They wrote, "This not only sharply raises defensive costs but also prolongs vulnerability exposure windows, significantly increasing the risk that critical infrastructure will be attacked." Translation: every time Mythos finds a new flaw, Americans get safer, and Chinese systems grow more exposed. Then things got openly serious. State broadcaster CCTV went on record, calling Mythos a leap in unprecedented cyberattack capabilities, the first public acknowledgement out of Beijing about this model. Meanwhile, Chris McGuire, who used to work on the US National Security Council, warned that China could roll out its own version of Mythos within months. Even Dario Amodei, Anthropic CEO, admitted it plainly. Countries can build Mythos-class AIS in 6 to 12 months. The race isn't hypothetical anymore. The AI cyber arms race is already here. Let's take a moment to look at the bigger picture. What we've been talking about, the frantic emergency meetings, the nervous banks, governments scrambling to figure out their next move, that's just what everyone sees on the surface. The real story runs deeper. Mythos didn't just appear out of nowhere. It landed right when global cybersecurity was already stretched thin. And Mythos is just the opening act. Here's the first thing you need to know. Anthropic didn't build Mythos as a weapon. They wanted a research tool, something to spot software vulnerabilities before hackers found them. That's actually a good idea. And it's well-intentioned. But here's the catch, and nobody's found a fix for it. If a tool is good at finding vulnerabilities, it's automatically good at exploiting them, too. You can't separate those sides. The very thing that makes Mythos powerful for defense makes it dangerous when misused. Experts call this a dual-use problem. And honestly, it's a lesson we seem to relearn with every new breakthrough. We invent powerful technology first, then scramble afterward to figure out how to control it. The internet showed up in the 1990s. Governments took years, almost a decade, just to write basic data protection laws. Social media exploded to billions of users long before anyone grasped its impact on political elections, mental health, and the way we perceive truth. Every time, the technology arrived first. The rules fell significantly behind, sometimes by years. But with AI, that gap is gone. We are not talking about long delays anymore. The time between a new capability emerging and someone turning it into a weapon can be counted in weeks. And still, that's only part of what's coming. Because Mythos is just the opening front. There's a second, quantum computing. And it's on the way. Pretty much all the encryption safeguarding global finance, every transfer, every login, every record, relies on math problems so complex that no current computer can break them fast enough to matter. That's the backbone of digital security. Quantum computers append the entire equation. These machines aren't like normal computers. For certain math problems, the exact ones that protect global banking, quantum computers can crack them fast. Alarmingly fast. There's even a famous algorithm, Schiess algorithm. It slices through RSA and ECC, the world's most common encryption systems in banking. Not in millennia, like we thought, but in hours. Most experts now say we'll see quantum computers with this power by the late 2020s or early 2030s. That's not a far-off sci-fi scenario. It's something policymakers are planning for now. The US has already started preparing. In August 2024, NIST, America's Standards Organization, locked in 3 new encryption protocols specifically designed to stand up to quantum attacks: Crystals Kyber, Crystals Dilithium, and Sphinx Plus. These will be the new ground rules. But switching over an entire global banking system to new encryption is a giant project. It'll take years, maybe even a decade or longer. There are legacy systems, regulations, vendors, international agreements. Nothing happens fast. Meanwhile, attackers aren't waiting. Right now, there's a strategy called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. Here's how it works. State-level actors scoop up and store loads of encrypted banking data, communications, financial records, SWIFT messages, even though they can't read it yet. They're just waiting. Because in a few years, when they've got working quantum machines, every one of those secrets will be laid bare. The attack has already started. We just don't see the fallout. So line up the two threats. Today, AI tools like Mythos target all the places banks trip up with encryption, not by smashing the math, but by finding human mistakes. And they do this faster than banks can react. In just a few years, quantum computers will take apart the underlying math itself. Every piece of intercepted data becomes readable. Traditional cybersecurity was always built around the idea of human attackers moving at human speeds. It was never set up for this. The World Economic Forum has already warned that without coordinated global action, we could end up with a two-tier financial system. The biggest banks and richest countries might upgrade in time. Smaller banks, local credit unions, and developing economies? They'd be left exposed and struggling to catch up. So this isn't just a technology issue. It's about who gets protected and who doesn't. A geopolitical and humanitarian question, not just a technical one. Mythos offers us a glimpse of a world that's coming fast. Only this time, the stakes are higher than we'd like to imagine. Every major financial crisis in history had warning signs. In 1929, people ignored the fragility underneath the markets until they couldn't. In 2008, people ignored the hidden risks inside mortgage-backed securities until it was too late. Today, we have something different. We have a specific AI model, named publicly, with documented capabilities, that triggered simultaneous emergency meetings in Washington, London, Brussels, and New Delhi all within 1 week. Canadian Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne described the risks posed by Mythos as an unknown unknown in a live BBC interview in April 2026. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde warned that if Mythos falls in the wrong hands, it could be really bad, pointing specifically to its ability to uncover zero-day vulnerabilities and the severe risks it poses to the global financial system. The creator of the AI said the world was not ready for it and locked it away. The warning signs are not hidden this time. They are in plain sight. So here is the question I want to leave you with, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. Do you think the world's financial system is prepared for what is coming? Or are we already too late? Drop your answer below. Every comment matters. It tells YouTube that this conversation is worth having, and it helps more people find this video. If this gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening in the world right now, share it with one person who needs to see it. That is how Elephanta Insights grows, not through algorithms, but through people who care about understanding the world, passing it on. And if you're new here, we cover stories exactly like this one. Global events, explained clearly, without bias, without noise. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next video.